Abe here, and I wanted to let you know that if you're able, you can upgrade your small beans skill over at patreon.com/smallbeans. Here's why you should do that. If you pledge 5 measly beans a month, you get access to about half our podcasts that you don't get if you're just listening to the free feed. Shows include Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys, Like Razor Blade Pie, and bonus episodes of I'll Show You Mine If You Show Me Yours. Not to mention bonus content including info and updates on the movie we're making, Papa Bear. Hey, where's all the reasons to not subscribe to Patreon? I can't find them. Anyway, back to the show.
I just drank a pot of tea, which means...
With you, I was like 5-hour energies all mixed up.
Well, no, that's the equivalent. People forget this
Kratom.
about tea. Tea is fucking... Ooh, I should do Kratom right now. Tea is fucking caffeinated. And that's all to say I am feeling it. And I'm also hopefully won't have to pee while we do this episode because I am filled with a tea. I love it.
You could say we're coming in hot because we're talking about, it's loose horse shit.
Yeah, good try.
Can't get on the rails that fast.
I have a question.
It wouldn't be the show. It would be the wrong show, yeah?
Unless you want to catch up. You playing Baldur's Gate yet or what?
Oh, man. I've been hearing you reference it, and I was dreading this conversation. So I said instead of catching up, let's get into it. I recently, because, and by recently I mean this year, 8 months ago, played through an exhaustive 100% Divinity 2 campaign. Did you play Divinity 2?
No, but you did mention this to me, and so you're just not ready, right?
I also, in my time at IGN, met all Valerian people and worked on the preview material for Baldur's Gate 3. I was spearheading all of IGN's coverage of that at the time.
Wow.
So I know all the story beats, and
you're sick of it. You're sick of Baldur's Gate.
But I want to say I'm sick of a specific thing, which I guess I could change the difficulty gauge, but I'm a normal guy. I don't like setting games on easy. I appreciate that exists now as an accessibility thing, but I do like to beat games on normal or higher. And Divinity 2 had this too. Tell me if you're experiencing this. Larian doesn't fuck around with the encounters. These fights take 45 minutes to an hour and a half to play out. And you can lose them 5 times. And so it's a daunting amount of game for me.
I just checked last night on Steam, 90 hours of Baldur's Gate. About half of that is actual progression.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love it because I'm not where you are at. I've never really played a game like this. I played like RPGs, Knights of the Old Republic and stuff like that.
And I was obsessed with Divinity 2. I'm just not ready to do that again right now.
And no, I think that's a perfectly understandable answer. But I'm sure you recognize it's Game of the Year. I think even non-RPG players are going to get into it.
Tears of the Kingdom came out this year.
I literally... all right. So I'll tell you, this is a Cody story. For example, everybody I've said, you should check out Baldur's Gate has ended up being I can't do anything but play Baldur's Gate now. Everybody. Hana is playing it right now. Cody, I was like, you should check out Baldur's Gate. And then he's like, yeah, I will. And then I got a text from him, just said Game of the Year. I'm like, yeah, it is.
But has he played
good.
The Legend of Zelda:
Yes.
Tears of the Kingdom?
And he loved it. He loved Tears of the Kingdom. He told me that too.
I mean,
that's why
I don't want to spoil my other podcast, but
yeah, that's why
Tears of the Kingdom to me is a game of the decade. It feels like an all-time artistic
I'm sure it is, but and it's not fair. It's not fair to that game because I haven't played that game.
But it's not fair to Baldur's Gate to compare. They're totally separate genres.
Totally separate
so you don't
genres.
even have to do that, except the fact that I have to on one of us. I
feel bad for Starfield because I'm not a big fan of what they do, but it's not obviously it's good. And they're like, look, we have kind of an RPG. And Baldur's Gate's like, do you though? Do you? And they
we're
just
about to do
wiped them out.
Our Starfield episode, so I literally actually don't want to spoil my thoughts on Starfield because I'm a huge Bethesda guy and they're fairly interesting material for another podcast. But on the Baldur's Gate front, man, I just got to say, I had the totally opposite experience. I played for 4 hours and lost an hour-long fight, and I was like, I can't do that again. I don't have anything to do that fight again.
You got to save beat by beat. It is all I say is It took me a couple hours to
I don't
for it to
save for
click.
hours at a time. I don't save for many hours, which is part of my problem with games like that.
Yeah, it's a scum save game.
I
for
forget.
Sure.
I always forget. Yeah.
Like you save before any roll. I try to play it as it lies as much as I can, but like certain battles, I'm like, no, I can't lose this battle.
That would but like I said, I'd have a totally different experience if I just set the difficulty down one notch. Here's my thing. They make it so you have to be a completionist. And if I do real D&D campaigns.
No, they don't. At least, so my experience, what's been cool about it is everybody's been
finish
different.
my thought afterward.
I'm sorry. I just don't agree with that. Go on.
But you don't know the end of, okay, anyway.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't complete yet. Or maybe it's not true in Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know because I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in Divinity 2, this is absolutely true. I and everyone in the community talked about it online. Hopefully they've adjusted for it. But in Divinity 2, there's only roughly, almost just barely, the amount of XP available on the board that you need to be of a commensurate level to beat the boss of the next area, right? So there's this thing in Divinity 2, you sail on a ship between different acts, and they're like, they don't tell you this, but if you don't level up enough between acts and you get to like act 2 and you're only level 7, no, you need to be level 13. Now, literally, you can't go backwards and you can't kill anything in this area.
Right.
You have to start your campaign over.
And
people hated that. And the other thing about it, if you don't scum save, if you scum save, you're fine. But sorry, I will finish the thought, I swear. So there was this thing where people would have to search all the time and help each other, as I had,
where
they're like, I'm level 7. I can't beat any level 8 thing. I've tried each combat 10 times. It's like an Elden Ring problem. You're like, how do I advance? And they're like, there's this obscure tiny mission that you have to hit, or you mathematically can't get enough to reach level 8, do this mission. And it's like, why did you make it so that in each board, essentially, you have to do 90 to 100% of the actions in order to be a high enough level to advance?
They do not do that in this game.
Great.
Good. Well, first of all, they do warn you. If you're going into a new area, they will say, you're not technically leveled enough. That said, I've ignored every warning.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll tell you. They'll say, you are under leveled. Don't keep going. There's more to do here. That said, I ignored most of those. I've been under leveled the whole game. And in fact, I didn't even realize.
And you win all your fights?
Yeah.
Maybe I suck at it, but I lose so much.
I got through Act 2 not realizing that I could have another companion. I only had 3 companions, or 2 companions. There was only, and you can have 3. And so I went back to Act 1 and grabbed a new companion.
So I guess what I'm asking is, so am I bad at strategy, which can be true?
No.
What is about that?
I think this specific game just made it so that there are so many options. Like literally there are fights where I've talked to someone and they'll be like, I spent hours fighting them. I'm like, really? I actually, through a dialogue tree, convinced them to kill themselves. Like there are so many options now that that's part of me is like, I'm a barbarian and I'm like, I can't imagine going through this game if you don't have a lot of hit points, because that's going to be a nightmare. That said, there are many ways to get through battles that don't involve fighting more. Or there's ways where it's
that's classic D&D.
Yeah, you can sneak by.
I can always sneak and persuade, but I like strategic combat. I want to do fights. And I'm saying I had the same problem, at least at start, and that's why I fell off.
Right.
As I'm like, I just did this with Divinity 2 and I can't, which was that I was wandering all around. Anywhere I could go, there were 5 things I could do, and they were all too high a level for me.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know what to do next that's adequate, appropriate for my level. So I tried one of them. I fought him for 40 minutes, died, started over, fought him for 4 minutes, died, start over. And I'm like, I'm done with this game.
That's fair. It's definitely hard. And if you're not
okay, I just wanted.
If you're not,
I'm like, is it hard at all, the combat?
Oh, if you're not, that's the thing that's why it doesn't feel like it is for everyone. So actually, I do retract Game of the Year, because I think Game of the Year should be accessible to everybody. Like Dark Souls is a game that Adam famously likes. That I'm like, I don't think that's fun for everybody, right? To play a boss over and over again, but it can click, I think, for everybody at a certain point, and that's why you have those different levels of difficulties. But Baldur's Gate is probably one of the most naturally expansive games I've played, like open, to the point that if you talk to like a dog, you might find a complete adventure that like you're like, man, they wrote that whole thing.
Yeah, that's
in.
the same as Divinity.
Yeah, and it's like that
because you have
you never
if you can talk to animals. Man, Divinity had something Baldur's doesn't do, because I bet it was a pain in the ass. Every single living thing that died produced a ghost that you could speak to if you had speak to dead.
You can speak to dead,
and a
in
lot
this,
of
but
yes, but a lot of them say this corpse has nothing to say.
Yeah,
in Divinity, every single thing also has a ghost.
That's awesome.
That has shit that it.
I might have to play
about,
Divinity after this because that sounds great. With me, it's like this is such a rich RPG, and it's so fun. And everybody I talk to, when I say like, what are you doing? It's a completely different thing than what everybody else is doing, including myself, where I'll look over at Hana and be like, I don't know who those people are or where you are. And I'm in Act 3.
Yeah.
And so like, that's quite an accomplishment. Like it is.
Larian's great, and they're good people.
That's good.
Speaking of talking about a completely
this has
different
been
thing.
one-upsmanship.
Well, I don't like that I don't like when loose horse shit is very specifically on topic of a topic that we would cover anyway. It's supposed to be horse shit, but it's not. So let's just stay on the rails. And this is Star Trek: The Next Futurama.
Welcome to Star Trek: The Next Futurama, an epic team-up between Gamefully Unemployed and Small Beans. For access to the entire series, find us on Patreon. And now your hosts, Mike and Dave.
So the rails are laser rails, through a prism or whatever.
What?
But we're gonna stay on premise, on format. This is on the Small Beans Network. So I'm your host, Michael Swaim.
Oh yeah, I'm David Bell.
Yeah, and we compare Star Trek episodes with episodes of Futurama. We're up to 57, which is season 5 premiere, because we go Futurama first, and then you'll see what Star Trek slots in. So as host, it's my job to tell you about the Futurama episode we'll be covering, in case you don't remember the detailed beats that we'll be comparing and contrasting later. So this is season 5, episode 1, according to the Hulu run order, which is crazy because even the seasonal lines don't match. Like on Wikipedia, this is season 4.
What?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah.
And we were speculating that they
know.
were canceled, but there's no indication that they're back by this episode. Mm-hmm. It's so weird.
Oh, I also talked a lot of big talk last episode about thinking that the movies came next. I'm wrong. There's one more season than the movies. So this is not Bender's big score. It is instead Crimes of the Hot. Crimes of the Hot. Looking you hot. Anyway. Everyone's watching news as almost every Futurama episode starts. And there's a giant heat wave happening in New York. They try to cool down by going in the pool, but it's not so hot. Oh, Nibbler fucks it up. Nibbler drinks all the pool water, so they can't go in the pool. We get there's a heat wave all over the city, a montage of how it's impacting people. We save jokes for later in this house, so let's just leave it at that. And then Professor goes, you know why this is happening, right? And he shows us a newsreel, which he often does. And we see an old school style newsreel about how I think it's a standout one people probably remember. DiMaggio plays the voice of some greenhouse gases who are a biker gang who beat up Mr. Sunbeam, and the corpses pile up, and that's it just explains, global warming, which doesn't exist. This is just a fanciful cartoon. Please, no letters. And it turns out that Earth nowadays handles global warming by just dropping a giant ice cube in the ocean. And you say, wait, that wouldn't work because the ice is still in the ocean. It's melting. That's the problem. You idiot. It's space ice. So they're bringing new ice in from outside the system. That's allowed. So the ice comes from comets. So guess who the professor sends to mine some ice on a comet? The people about whom the show is. So Bender, Leela, and Fry, the trifecta, fly up to a comet and try to use a giant mining drill to mine ice, but it turns out that comet is devoid of ice. Instead of trying any other comet in the universe because they have a spaceship, somehow the show, I can't get over this, dude. It's crazy. The show acts like that's that, and the world is doomed. What? Just accept it. So anyway, there's no more ice, I guess, in the universe, I guess.
Just pointing this out, you could leave the planet that's dying. Just
You
pointing
all
that
have
out.
spaceships.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, and you all have spaceships to an absurd degree. Like
Yeah.
they fly to the moon in 3 seconds, you
Yeah.
know. Anyway, it's so easy to get to space. Case in point, Al Gore's head comes from space on a series of rockets and holds a conference in Kyoto that all the world's best scientists are invited to, including a dark wizard scientist, but no jokes. Not allowed to say jokes. I'm just saying that he's there. And they try to figure out what to do about global warming. The professor's arch nemesis, Wernstrom, Newman, ultra micro volcaniconiosis. Sorry. Wernstrom says, we'll put a giant mirror in the sky, which also could work, but it just happens to not because it tips over and becomes a magnifying glass, burning a huge swath of Earth. And they go, well, that idea didn't work. Who else? Professor? And Professor says a tearful, confession that it's all his fault. Now, to some degree, I suppose, heat pun, because surely he's not responsible for like the 20th century's pollution. But anyway, he was the straw that broke the camel's back because he invented like the basic robot design that all modern robots are based on, including Bender. Basically, he invented the core mechanic that they drink alcohol for fuel and belch fire and smoke, right? So we flash back and find out that when he was inventing it, he could have worked harder and invented something with clean fuel, but it would have made less profit and it would have been more work. And he was fucking his boss, whose mom, the evil billionaire. So, he fell for his wiles, as he often does. And she said, make the shitty ones. And he said, okay, well, we'll fudge the numbers and the environment can, quote, take one more hit for the team. No, it can't. The world's going to be destroyed. So in order to prevent this, they decide they have to destroy all robots on Earth, which I guess it would stay just on the verge of apocalypse. Like we would just stop the bus right at the edge of the cliff. But that's the plan. President of Earth, Nixon, which I like that it's consistent that as a joke, Nixon's head becomes president. And then he is for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
President of Earth. So he creates a trap, which is like a robot party on a Galapagos island. And he tricks all the robots into going there so they can be destroyed with like an electromagnetic pulse or a missile or some shit. But it only works if they destroy all of them. And it won't work because Bender is not there. And Bender's just not there because he has found in his B plot a special affinity for turtles. He saw some turtles who were displaced by global warming on the news, and that turtle was flipped onto its back and had difficulty righting itself. And it turns out that's a weakness Bender has, which we didn't know before, is that if he's tipped on his back because he's cylindrical, it's difficult for him to right himself. Not impossible, we find out, but difficult. So he is busy fucking around with his turtle friend Shelly. And when he gets to the party, he knows what's going on. So he like whispers to Shelly, I guess it's sad that all the robots will be destroyed, but it's okay because the turtles will live.
Right.
But a robot who's a microphone is there and overhears him and goes, this robot says they're going to kill us all. So all hell, like a purge breaks out on Robot Island. I forget, one guy just has the best, like in the rabble. He's like, they're killing us, man. Like there's just really good, robot rabble all over the island. And then the professor calms them down by saying, wait, I have an idea how we can save the day with science. You all vent fire. So if you all belch or fart in one direction and you're all gathered in one place, say an island, it's like a giant afterburner on the planet. And it just so happens that the Galapagos Island is pointed right at the sun right now. Like it's noon right now. Another the science is like beyond stretched in this episode. Neil deGrasse Tyson had strokes watching this. We will shift the planet slightly further away from the sun such that it's cool enough that it perfectly recreates the conditions of not having global warming and will be saved. But it takes the force of every single robot, and they're all doing it. And they go, why isn't one robot doing it? And we pan over and we realize, dun, 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 the B plot and A plot have intersected because Bender has by chance fallen onto his back and he's having difficulty righting himself. you would think he could just belch because his mouth is pointed perpendicularly upwards, but this episode doesn't give a fuck what the plot logic is, like to an insane degree. So even though Bender said that it's true that he can't roll over, he just does now. Like he does roll over and realizes he can and makes a joke about it. That's all. He says, I'm even greater than I thought I was. And then he farts by standing on his head, which means he could have belched. Like it doesn't matter what direction because he doesn't even do it standing upright. Anyway, or he could have flexed his prehensile arms and pushed himself up. Fuck, I've revealed my opinion of this episode too early, but that's the end. It all works out. And as a final point, I just have to say, doesn't this mean that global warming will rise again and they'll have to do this every so often like the ice cube? So like 10 years from now, the year will be like a year and 4 weeks long. But anyway, they say because we're further from the sun, the earth is, the orbit's bigger, so it's 1 week longer. And Nixon declares it Robot Party Week, and everyone's happy at the end.
It's almost like that big ball of garbage one was like the better one about this subject.
Of this, I think I agree. I was going to say because,
Kicking
that
the
one
can
also
down the road,
establishes
it's more cynical.
that Fry knows about pollution. In this one, it's like, why does Fry act like he doesn't know about global warming? Anyway,
also,
that's that.
I think it's kind of weird to frame global warming as these poor robots have to suffer to stop global warming. You know what I mean? It's a weird message.
Such a bad, weird analogy. That's what it's anyway.
It's like, no, and if they're cars, it's like, no, we should do something about that. It's not, oh, these poor cars.
If it's a metaphor for cars, right?
Yeah.
It's not to have a party or like, what was your point?
Yeah. But we'll talk about that more. I have to tell you which one it linked to, and I think people will be surprised because we already did the space. Your warp is causing a problem in space, right? So people might be scratching their heads and going like, well, what is it going to be? And we'll talk about this in the next segment, but I think we picked a very good one. And that is I am stalling to figure it out. Season 5, episode 23, I Borg.
I Borg! Air horn.
What a weird
A billion
matchup.
voices in your mind, all blowing a celebratory air horn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird in terms of quality level, but
We'll talk about
I think TNG fans know that I Borg is one of the top 10 episodes of the series and have been waiting for it. So here it is.
I think if you think about iBorg, it's already clicking in your head, but I'll go through the episode. The crew discover a crashed Borg scout ship. Weird that they have scout ships, but I guess they can have scout. I don't know why they're not allowed to have scout ships.
Right. Everything gets fudged with the Borg because I thought they dismantled and shut themselves down so they couldn't be blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
And there is a bunch of bodies there, including one survivor, a young Borg. They're like, we should just fucking go. They'll be back for, this. Worf is like, step on its head. And Beverly Crusher
Worf
like,
says, and make it look like an accident so they won't chase us. That's how much he fears the Borg.
Oh, yeah. Because the Borg, at this point, for people who don't realize, Picard has become a Borg. And back at this point, he has committed a genocide as a
Dude,
Borg.
I just watched Family again. That monologue when he's in the mud.
They took everything from me. So Crusher is like, hey, no. That's still a living creature. We have to bring it on board and do the things we normally would do if it was a Romulan or a Ferengi or anybody. We have to try to save this thing. Picard begrudgingly agrees. He's like, all right, but beam it straight to the brig. Bring your equipment there. And they confine him. And the Borg is this bumbling little dildo who doesn't know what to do, and they fix him up. They give him food. Geordi is has to give it food, but at the same time, Picard is like, I wonder if there's a way to genocide the Borg through this.
And could we make him a suicide bomb if they want to recover him?
Yeah.
Could we strap him with a bomb and send him back?
Which is a hell of a first thing for Picard to think, but
for Picard to say.
He's like, I wonder if we can Hitler them real quick.
It's so weird to me because there's an episode, and maybe the argument is, which I would buy, it's a good argument, that he has a relationship to the Borg that he's never had with any other enemy.
Idea, right?
Because of the Locutus thing. But it is crazy that Picard, who has fought in the Stubbs episode, he's like, these microscopic organisms have a right to life. We can't just kill these bacteria. But he's like, kill this motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, the argument, is that Picard felt what it's like to be a Borg and he hated it, right? So,
and he thinks there's nothing redeeming about them. Yeah.
Spoilers, this episode is about how he's not correct. So I get why they're doing this. And Geordi and Data are like, yeah, we could genocide them. Let's figure that out. And as they're figuring it out, they spend more time with this Borg. Dr. Crusher's bringing him back to health because they figure, bring him back to health and make him become a virus, essentially, that kills the Borg. They're going to blow their minds. And what I mean by that is they are going to give him an unsolvable geometric shape in his mind that he will then send to the collective. And like a computer virus, it'll just eradicate the Borg is the idea. The Borg, which is called Third of Five. If you know Borg names, it makes sense. As he's cut off from the rest of the collective, he starts kind of chatting with them. LaForge, being LaForge, naturally forms a relationship because he has to. Every fucking robot loves LaForge for some reason. He should really reflect on that.
And hologram.
Yeah. And so he's talking to this Borg who's like, we will assimilate you. And he's just like, nah, I don't want to be assimilated. And the Borg doesn't quite understand it. Again, he's cut off for the first time. He's thinking for himself. And he's like, you don't want to be assimilated? And he's like, Geordi's like, no. And over time, they figure they have to call the Borg something. So they call him Hugh off of the base of him saying you over and over again.
Just
they're like,
the word you. And
Hugh.
they're like, that sounds like Hugh.
Yeah.
Does it? Okay.
Good enough.
His name could be Ewan, but
Yep.
okay.
Meanwhile, Guinan overhears all of this. And if you know anything about Guinan, you know that her race was nearly wiped out by the Borg. And she's like, I'm sorry, you have a Borg that you're naming Hugh, that you're bringing back to health. And meanwhile, like, Picard's like, yeah, but we're eradicating them, that's still. But
and she's like, that's not what Geordi's been saying.
Yeah,
in Dead Forward.
Basically, people are starting to talk about Hugh as an individual and saying,
and like, is this fucked up? Should we do this?
Yeah, I'm having second thoughts. So she fences Picard as they do, and she pretends to be injured in order to get a touch on Picard. And her lesson is like, yeah, kill them while they're weak because they'll kill you. Which is very un-Guinan-like of her. But again, she's
You're supposed to think the Borg are unlike anything they've experienced before.
Yep, and that's what
the
makes
offer.
them terrifying, right? That's what always made the Borg terrifying, is you cannot change them. But even Guinan decides to actually talk to Hugh and realizes that Hugh is talking to himself as an I and not a we. And she's realizing, like, okay, yeah, this isn't the Borg anymore. This is an individual that is cut off. We could technically, like, if we want to, reform this Borg. And it also means in her head that Borgs can be reformed, which is a whole new idea, right? This is the first time that's represented in Star Trek. It won't be the last.
It's super fitting that you brought up Baldur's Gate 3 because essentially it's a combat encounter that she didn't realize. Oh, you can just persuade these
exactly.
Yeah.
And not to spoil Star Trek Picard, but the character Hugh will be back.
Yeah. I assumed he got. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool that he stayed individualized.
Same actor too. They use the same actor. Yeah, no, the Borg, there's a whole history that happens. But 7 of 9 is, of course, the next
It's like Boba
version.
Fett getting out of the Sarlacc.
Yeah, this is the first moment where they realize that the Borg, and that we as an audience realize, the Borg aren't this just unrelenting entity. They actually can be turned. So
Coach,
realizing
you could recover the person. Yeah,
realizing that, Guinan goes to Picard and she's like, you think this might be fucked up? Picard's like, I haven't thought about it. I haven't talked to the Borg. She's
and he's like,
you
you switched?
Yeah. And she's like, you haven't even talked to him? And it's clear that Picard doesn't want to talk to him because he probably knows in the back of his mind that he might also. Geordi came to him and he's like, I have second thoughts. And he's just like, Geordi, be more of a sociopath about this, okay? And so, like, Picard at this point is clearly the only person left who's like, maybe this is wrong. You can't genocide a race even if they are trying to genocide you.
Yeah.
And so Picard is like, all right, let me talk to him. He beams him into his ready room, which I was like, Picard, just make the walk you lazy bastard. But sure, beam him in, and he's alone with him. And Picard improvises. He does a little yes and, because Hugh looks at him and goes, Locutus. And then Picard's like, oh yeah, fuck, I forgot I was Locutus. And he goes, yeah, you know what? I am Locutus.
Well, I doubt he forgot.
Well, yeah, but he didn't realize that the Borg was going
Right.
to recognize him. And he's like, yes, I am Locutus. And in fact, I'm here making sure you assimilate these people. Why aren't you assimilating these people? And Huey's like, they don't want to be assimilated. Geordi is my friend, my turtle, you could say. And I don't want to assimilate him. And so Picard realizes,
Picard's like, fuck.
yeah, Picard's like, God damn it. All right, Hugh's a person. I get it. We're not going to do the thing. Hugh, you can stay here. You can seek asylum. And Hugh realizes, like, well, that'll kill all of you. Like, if I seek asylum, the Borg will never stop going after you. You'll be a target. I need to go back. I'm going to make that sacrifice and go back to the collective.
7 of 9.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Even though I am now realizing that being a Borg kind of sucks, I'm going to go back and be a Borg. And they sort of speculate, like, well, maybe this individuality will be the thing that is their downfall, that will bleed into the Borg. And I mean, as we learn slowly, that is kind of what happens. And this is the first real shot fired at the Borg. They don't even realize it, because this has repercussions all the way into Star Trek Picard and through Voyager. And they send him back. Geordi's like, can I stay there and watch him leave? And Picard's like, yeah, fuck it. And like both you and him are like, yeah, they probably won't assimilate Geordi. It's like, yeah, why not? I mean, we should beam him down and get the fuck out of here, but let's do that for fun. Let's beam Geordi down.
Remember when we showed up and we were terrified and trying to leave? Let's hang out.
Let's hang out and
now.
like let's
because this one's good, and you're like, but the ones we were scared of are still coming, and they're still evil.
Let's hide and wait, and it's like, or don't beam Geordi down and just leave.
And just get the fuck out of there.
No, they hide and wait. Geordi says goodbye. Hugh disappears. And then they, I guess, go wait till the coast is clear. I would wait hours. Geordi's on there. He has to take a dump. And they beam him back up eventually. And we don't even see that part. So that's the end of the episode, I, Borg, which is a great episode. I'm giving it the business, but it is a good episode. And I am done talking about it.
Fuck, I gotta not kill this robot. Famously good episode, well told. Borg, of course, a reference to I, Robot, a short story collection by Isaac Asimov, considered one of the initial blueprints for how robots think.
It would later
three
be
rules of robotics are something that a lot of scientists think we probably will use, and he devised them.
Yeah, I mean, later they perfected it with the Will Smith movie that kind of got all got trimmed to the fat, so to speak.
Well, also Asimov was kind of a piece of crap, as a lot of those guys were. I just mean I like his writing.
Like he in interviews early was like, I imagine Will Smith for this. He didn't even know who he was.
And they were like, who? And he was like, Fresh Prince. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
And he was like, come on, Hancock. And they're like, oh. So that takes us to our next segment. Scrolling up to remember the name. Good news. Yeah, that's right.
Good news. Number one.
I refreshed my memory and got half of it out. This is where we explain why we paired it. Dave already mentioned the turtle thing, but there's more. There's more than that. I actually think this does fit better than Force of Nature.
Oh,
ultimately.
It 100% does.
Yeah.
I just want to point out it's very funny. I guess it's the next segment that Bender does. It's not because of his connection to Fry. It's because of a connection to a turtle.
That's right.
That's very
that he
funny.
saw on TV once. Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, Geordi's the turtle. But most of all, I guess I'll start.
That's more of a detail. Yeah, go ahead.
It's about everybody deciding to eradicate a robot species in order to solve an existential problem, and then learning that you can't trade one genocide for another, and it's not moral.
Yep.
In both cases, they also have to trick them to do it.
Sad lonely robot killed for the greater good. They feel guilty, so they don't do it. If they're left alone, they'll make the environment unlivable. The global warming thing is equivalent to the Borg ultimately filling every corner of the galaxy, which is the concern there. Both episodes start with the crew focused on the sun and how hot it is.
You're right.
Which was just by chance. Futurama, they're looking up at the sun going, it's so hot. The Star Trek, they're hovering near a sun, looking at it going, wow, it's amazing how much heat it puts out.
You're right.
Just by chance. Yeah.
That's amazing. In both ones, the robots are killed by a geometric shape. The big round mirror in an impossible shape,
which is so dumb. It's only one removed from the classic 50s thing where you go, this statement is a lie. And the robot goes, I can't process that. And their head explodes. So stupid. It's the idea that a robot brain can't let go of something. Yeah. Of course it can. It can go, well, I'll delete that. Like, I don't know why it would.
It's one of the first things we teach him is like, people are nonsense. Don't listen to them.
Or if something doesn't work, stop that and do something else. Right. Like, why would we not teach it that anyway?
They, and both a robot learns of the situation and chooses to sacrifice themselves to make a selfless choice to save the people they love. Geordi and the turtle. Basically, Hugh is asked to destroy the Enterprise by Picard and says, no, I won't do that. I'm going to reject my destructive force. And so does Bender. And in both cases, it's a selfless choice to sacrifice themselves in exchange.
Correct, you are, sir. We get multiple scenes in both of one member of the crew acting so notably unlike themselves that the other characters go, you're hiding your real feelings, aren't you? Bender and Picard. So Bender, they're like, you're acting nice and like you love people. What's wrong with you? And with Picard, they're going, you're clearly still fucked up about the thing, but let's talk about it. And he goes, no. So same thing there.
Should be noted that similarly, a robot character in both reveals their own vulnerabilities. Hugh and Bender both slowly reveal more about themselves.
Well, it's more than that. They learn humanity or feeling and bond over the fact that they're differently abled in the same way. Bender and Shelley both can't roll over. Geordi and Hugh talk about how they both have cybernetic eyes.
Right. Also, in both, a different character is struggling with memories of guilt by denying it and not wanting to talk about it. Picard and the Borg and the Professor as the cause of global warming. They both feel responsibility.
Same vibe.
Yeah. And they're both like, no, I will not talk about this. Okay, fine. And
I would also say that objectively, Hugh treats Geordi poorly.
Yeah.
Or for the 80% of the relationship is talking crap on him and stuff, because Geordi basically takes the brunt of changing him. So as a result, there's a lot of scenes where the robot is treating the human like shit and the human is just sucking it up. It's very similar to Fry Bender dynamic, the Geordi Hugh dynamic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is sort of repetitive, but the solution is all or nothing. It's genocide or nothing. And
there's a ticking clock in both. The lasers coming, the Borg cubes coming.
And it's like, we need to get every single one of them. We can't, every robot has to help out. Hugh, we have to eradicate the entire Borg and so on.
By the end, we find out the robots have more capability than we knew.
Yep.
The Borg do have the capacity for individuality. Bender does have the capacity to roll over.
That's great. That's great.
And in the end, all the robots gather in one place to hang out together and have a robot party.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
But it's pretty strong.
It's pretty good shit.
Yeah.
It's good shit, even though obviously Bender doesn't act like Hugh acts.
No.
So let's dive into and unpack. I have, I think, some killer questions for this Star Trek in the next segment we call BMSPD.
Fight my shiny Prime Directive.
That's right. The Baltimore Michael Swain Police Department. So the first thing I wanted to ask, can't they use any other comment? I did that.
Let's start with Futurama, I guess.
Yeah, we'll start with the Futurama. Okay. The thing that really stood out to me about the Futurama was when the Crushinator hits on Bender on the island, he's not into her. I thought he fucking loved the Crushinator. Right. In the second episode on the moon, he's like, she's the hottest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah,
there's another episode where she strips for him and backs onto his butt or whatever.
I think what they're arguing here is that Bender's so bummed that he's not into it.
He's like, it's not time right now, baby.
Is this the first Hedonism Bot episode?
Oh, yes. I didn't realize that's the introduction.
Yeah, he's a punchline, basically.
He goes, we all need to be shut down. Or like, everyone, I know you're having fun, especially you, hedonism bot, but we all need to be shut down, especially you, hedonism bot.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. A legend is born.
Yeah, because it was clearly a one-off joke that they're like, no, he's great. Keep him. So we already talked about it, but it is really weird that they're basically like, oh no, the poor cars in this episode. The other thing that makes this episode really fucking, to me, like, not dated, but like naive, or it's just funny again.
But it's like, if you're gonna do the evolution episode, have something cogent to say about evolution.
Right.
If you're gonna do a random episode about the robot devil, fine, go nuts.
Right.
But like, it seemed, go ahead.
But
go
like
ahead.
Big Ball of Garbage, that one is literally about kicking the can down the road, right?
Right.
They're saying something. This one, they have a scene that was so, it like made me sad, where they learn there's a problem, climate change, and then all the world scientists come together and form a conclusion, and then the government says, let's
do a thing
that.
about it.
Yeah. And I know they're sort of tongue-in-cheek, where it's like they're treating them like celebrities. That's kind of the point, but it's not enough of an observation. You know what I mean? And that solution will inconvenience everybody, and they're like, we're going to do it anyway. It was clearly
a plot convenience. It was not a satirical commentary,
right? Like,
in that moment. You can tell by the shape of it.
Yeah, exactly. They're playing with these ideas, and they're saying things that are very weird and specific, but not concluding anything ultimately that's worthwhile.
Agreed.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
I guess I mean. And then, of course, I pointed out just the plot holes bother me, like, again and again and again. For a show where, it's interesting. There's episodes of Futurama where they telegraph that the science is going to be so bullshit in this one. Don't worry about it. It's like magic. But then there's other ones where they telegraph, you can actually track the math in this, and the brain switching is a real thing. And I think they're very good at framing which is going to be which. This one feels like one and then doesn't deliver, and then it delivers the other kind of episode. And that's what feels weird about it.
Yeah.
Whereas Iborg, on track.
Oh, yeah. I also, if we're talking about Iborg, I want to talk about Geordi's relationship with the robots, because I actually think it's a really positive thing. Because at first, like, if I were Geordi at first, I'd be like, what's going on here? Am I broken? That they glom onto me. But they do this consistently with Geordi, and I know they must have internally realized it. What Geordi's actual situation is that he doesn't judge anyone. Like, he's completely open. He talks to them like they're people. That's
anyone, anything, any
hologram,
alien,
an alien. Yeah, that's what it is it's not just robots, it's anybody. But so that's what they're actually showing, is that Geordi, being a man of science who spends a lot of time around technology, looks at Data and goes like, yeah, he's my friend. I immediately accept him. And while other people see him as a novelty, he does that to Hugh, where he's just like, Hugh's saying robot shit, and he's like, yeah, whatever, buddy.
Just like the Bender Fry first scene they meet.
Yeah.
You mean you would want a robot for a friend? Yeah, ever since I was 10 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Geordi is just like, I'm going to talk to you like anybody else, even if you're a fucking weird little nerd. Like, because so am I, you know?
Well, here's it just occurs to me now. I don't mean to change topic, but I'm like, my brain is just blown away. It's because Geordi says, we're learning a lot about the Borg from downloading the files of your experience, Captain. First of all, what are those files? Is it a transcript of Picard's brain going, oh God, oh no, I'm trapped. And just, like, what are those files? And then B, Picard was resuscitated and revived and was a Borg and now is not. How can they not understand that the Borgs are recoverable? Shouldn't the Locutus incident have proven that? That's what's just occurring to me now.
Right. I think in their minds, they're like, they made him a special Borg that kept his individuality.
It was so little time or whatever.
Yeah, but they also made him special. So it was like, I think they were like, oh, he's a different
he was
type
the voice.
Of Borg. Yeah.
Well, that's my other big question about Iborg is my pet theory, and you can tell me if this meshes with Picard at all. Picard's, sorry, not the show, now talking about the man.
Right.
Space Daddy says, well, you know, just because it's the right thing to do, let's give him his individuality, let him make his choice. He chooses to go back to the Borg. That's his choice, and we're doing that just for that reason alone. But I like to think maybe his individuality will spread like a virus, but a good virus, and infect the other Borg and wake up others.
Right.
And my question is, I think it would be very ironic and kind of cool as storytelling if that seed of individuality is what gave rise to the existence of the Borg Queen. Because people who have seen Voyager know that there is one Borg who's like Locutus. She's individual and she orders them around just like the Xenomorph Queen. And she's fucking brutal and vicious.
Yeah.
And the fact that she has individualism makes her more dangerous than your average Borg. And my question is, maybe she wouldn't exist if not for Hugh. Because up to Voyager, when we see Borg, they are a chorus of voices speaking in unison. The Borg Queen's the first one we see where she's like, I'll speak for them.
Yeah, she shows up in one of the movies first in First Contact. And like, Hugh comes back in this show to show that is happening. And I don't think Star Trek Picard ever says that, but I can see that being the lore of that. They never say
it's cool headcanon
explicitly.
I think.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's clear that something ripples through the Borg. And then I think Star Trek Picard did a good job, or did some interesting shit with the evolution of the Borg in that. And so like
the Borg are very interesting.
They are very interesting.
Philosophical questions like, would they still be evil if they only converted corpses into cybernetics? You know, like if they were space zombies, is that okay?
They would be uncomfortable to be around, where you're like, hey, you're my grandma. And they're like, yeah. I also, it's funny, the way Porgs are always described by Borgs, and I know this is the point, they're pitching it to people, it doesn't sound that bad. Like when Hugh is like, you are all alone here. When I'm in the collective, we have many thoughts. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like you've been assimilated. Right. It sounds like you're all individuals. Like, what if it's like the Matrix? I've said this before, where it's
you're
like,
individuals, but you're linked. It sounds like
and it's
like the internet.
Yeah,
you live on the internet.
You live on the internet. That's fine. I mean,
well, that's what I always think about. Is endlessly fascinating to me about hive mind versus not hive mind.
Right.
Is we creatures like us would totally reasonably and necessarily think, oh, you have a hive mind? That's terrifying. It's like being a zombie. You have no yourselfness. And if you were a hive mind, the opposite is just as terrifying. You're like, I have access to everyone, not just in my family, but in the world at all times. You're alone, trapped in a little meat cube.
Exactly.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
So like, it's legitimate for a hive mind species to think they're superior, and for an individually minded species to think, no, I would never want that.
I think that's why
that is interesting.
Yeah, that's why we love that, right? That idea.
Yeah, love it.
And like I like to think now the Borg all watch a movie, and then in their hive mind they're like fighting about the quality of the movie, like it's the internet. Like they're like, yeah, we're a singular mind. I mean, we bitch about shit like all the time.
Well, right. And the offer that they have thoughts changes everything about the Borg.
Right.
Because and they play with that more in Voyager episodes like Unimatrix 1 and all this shit. But it's just interesting to me because there's an analogous version I always think about, which is like, what if there was a zombie outbreak and we all start doing the thing where we love killing zombies and it's fun? And then what if you found out that the person's brain is still in there? That's still your aunt. She's just sick and driven to bite people. Like she's having fits and seizures, but she's still in there. That would change everything about how you think about zombies, right?
Yeah.
And this does that with Borg.
I always wish I said this about Borg, but a zombie movie from the perspective of someone who is a zombie and it's trapped in their mind, and like the reality is just different for them or something, would be great.
I wrote it as a short story once, but I'd like to see it as a movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shit, I was going to say something else, but one of the most telling things to me about the Borg in this, that if I were any member of the Enterprise, I would spend hours asking them about, is why Hugh has little rubber abs. I'd be like, you didn't have to do that. Like, I want to see Hugh be like, yeah, we thought it looked good. It's like
I was
Batman. We look like Batman.
I also really want to ask, like when he talks around Data and they notice that he's saying we instead of I.
Right.
And I wanted him to go like, yes. And I also can use contractions. You can't. And Data's like, no, I cannot. And he's like, why? That's fucking stupid. Why can't Data use contractions? It will never not bother me.
Yeah.
And then another nitpicky question, but that's the last one I got, is something that occurred to me this time. If you're a Trekkie out there and you know the answer, please let me know. Why is Geordi in gold, the command color? Is there no engineering color? Shouldn't he be in teal, the science officer color?
Yeah, you're right. I was going to say season 5 is peak Star Trek aesthetically, in my opinion, where it's like they've all kind
It
of...
is beautiful.
Yeah, they're
it's
all
shot beautifully too.
Yeah,
Good
they
season.
figured it all out, right? They know who all the characters are. That is a weird thing that I feel like they never really
I mean, he's
solved.
in gold for the rest of the show, but I just always wonder about the code, or I didn't always. It just occurred to me to wonder about that.
Yeah, they ran out of colors. They tried others and they're like, doesn't look good. Doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I have one more thing, and this is
Mhm.
gonna sound weird. Why can't Picard just have one genocide as a treat? So like, all right,
Like that guy on The Survivors
yeah.
who killed all the Boonraki or whatever.
Right, that guy who Picard is like, we have no laws for what you did. And I'm like, yes, you do, Picard. You 100%
Yeah,
have
murder
Picard.
times a billion.
Yeah, yeah. But like that's what I mean, I guess, is that there are genocides that happen and people just like, and like it's not really that I want Picard to do genocide. It's more of like when this episode begins and the Borg show up, Picard's like, I'll be in my writing room, and Troy and Data, the robot, look at each other like, here we go. And she walks in and Picard should be like, can we not do this every time a Borg shows up? Like, we're going to have to deal with the Borg a lot. Can't I just
Right.
repress these feelings? Like, I get that you you can feel everything I feel, but that doesn't mean I want to fucking talk
But I still
about
have the right to repress feelings
Right.
if I want.
You're right.
You can even say it's not healthy, but I get to do what I want.
Exactly. I can repress. I can't imagine how awful that must be to be like
in relationship with
oh
Troy
yeah
all the time.
Yeah, or Troy, like, what do you think of this dress? Like, I like it. I know you don't really like it, and it's like, yeah,
Fine,
but
then fucking don't ask. Leave me alone.
yeah, exactly.
exactly.
And so like Picard in this case, it's just like, I don't know, let him be, and then everybody starts nagging at him,
Dude,
and
well,
everybody,
yeah.
and then when he's
Sorry.
like, I'm gonna genocide them, but Guinan's like, it's not good enough, and then she's like, maybe you should, and like everybody's fucking on.
Oh,
his
now you don't want me
fucking
to.
case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
And
I think go ahead.
oh
Go
no, I
ahead.
just want to say, if they wiped out the Borg here, it would save a lot of lives.
That's the obvious, right?
Yeah.
I almost didn't bring it up because it's like the first thing we would say in a cracked article, the villain's right. But it's like, I understand that it is upsetting to know that zombies, there's still a scrap of humanity in there. And if you had the right medicine and blah, 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 maybe you
Right.
could even reverse it. But right now, there's only, let's say, 1,000 humans left on Earth and there's 1 million zombies. If we could stop it and start rebuilding the human race from this point forward, that would be good.
Yeah.
There's billions of Borg threatening not just even our quadrant. People on the other side of the galaxy fear the Borg. The Borg is the most populous thing in the galaxy in Star Trek universe. That's why they're such a threat. It's like a tree is 80% rotted from the inside. You shouldn't keep feeding the rot. No matter how much it hurts, it is for the greater good. You should genocide the Borg. It's the objectively correct answer.
And it's fucked up to say. And again, history,
Right, yeah.
history, this fictional history will prove
I will
it
accept
wrong.
the judgment of history.
Yeah,
sir.
but the fictional history will prove it wrong and prove that, like, yes, it's good that Picard didn't do this, but it's
I'm sure the Borg will become good someday.
Right, but
that's wishful storytelling.
I get it. It's like the baby Hitler thing where it's like, but you'd have to kill a baby, and it's like babies die all the time, and those aren't Hitler. Like,
Look, it's happening now.
yeah, exactly. And so it's the same where it's like we run into so many genocides on this show. Can't Picard
You can't
just
give
do
us-
this one,
yeah.
knowing that it's
Of
going to
the
stop?
east of this crazy shit that's going to destroy the universe, really? Just one
Yeah.
little genocide?
Yeah. I know
All
this is the
right.
most callous version of this.
I know.
And I know that
Pretty fucked up.
ultimately it goes against the entire point of this. It's just like, it's not to say that Picard was right. It's more to say that, like, I understand Picard's perspective in this episode.
So let's smooth it over with some joke roulette. Does that work for you?
Yeah, fuck it.
Let's do it. All right.
Known to cause insanity in laboratory mice.
Very good.
Yep.
This always reminded me of Space Quest 1. Those who know. When they present a product called instant pool water,
Yeah.
dead leaves included.
It's great. I was a lot more selective with this one, so I'm now at the video that, by the way, it's very funny that it's one of the most sweaty transitions, which he goes, perhaps watching this video will take our minds off the heat.
I know. So bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll get to the video by saying Fry says, "It's so hot I poured McDonald's coffee in my lap to cool off. Johnny Carson said it.
Right.
And that's not funny enough to make joke roulette. So I will say the B one, which of course the callback is good. When he goes, that ice machine's so big, the ice crushes you. Yakov Smirnoff said it. And Leela says, no, he didn't.
Yes. Just the little girl spilling her ice cream and him going, ha, ha, ha. You might be wondering why your ice cream went away. Well, Susie, the culprit isn't foreigners, it's global warming. And then she goes, global, blah, blah, blah. Because they do the thing with Susie where she speaks like an idiot.
And when they explain how ice works, she says, just like Daddy puts in his drink in the morning. And then he gets mad.
I also just like Mr. Sunbeam getting the shit kicked out of him.
Right? Great visual.
Oh, God, it hurts.
Of course, as the planet continues to warm, it will take more and more ice to cool it each time, thus solving the problem once and for all.
But once and for all.
Yeah.
Zoidberg saluting Nixon. I just like that.
That's good. Professor, yes, there's no safer occupation than mining, especially when you're whipping around through space at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Woo! Safe.
I also like, you heard the good news, everyone. Save the earth, etc., etc. The giant foam cup. It's dumb. I love it.
Bender, this could be the end of the banana daiquiri as we know it. Also life.
Yep. Couple Morbo ones. Morbo is pleased, but sticky. And then Morbo wishes these stalwart nomads peace amongst the Dutch tulips. That's enough for me. But then she goes, I hope the windmills will keep them cool. Morbo goes, windmills do not work that way. Good night.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Bender, a turtle isn't yourself. Why do you care about it?
That's low-key a really great line.
Yeah.
Of course, I've got a degree in homeopathic medicine. The truck, you've got a degree in baloney. And then just got to shout out the reveal that the truck is the character, because it's a truck going around announcing, and then later robot. That's a great little reveal.
It's like the Radiator woman from the Radiator Planet who attends Fry's funeral.
Yeah.
What? That's crazy. I've seen you get off your back tons of times. All those times I was slightly on my side.
Hermes to the professor, you haven't acted this suspicious since I found those ape bones in your basement.
My hip hurts. I'm cooking a turkey. I'm not just making excuses. All right, I'll go. Talks himself into it.
And then I have ridden the mighty moonworm from Al Gore. And then Fry, good for him.
Good for him. The only reason the conference was held in Kyoto was this sign joke that the writer thought of. Kyoto, the anagram lover's Tokyo.
That's great. I like the guy when the mirror goes wrong, the guy looking up and going, ooh, that's a little bright, and then exploding.
And then getting burned. I know a very standout line for many in the episode. As I discuss in my book, Earth in the Balance, and the much more popular Harry Potter and the Balance of Earth, we must defend the Earth from global warming and also dark wizards. Cut to a dark wizard in the audience. Sure, blame the wizards. Cut back to Gore. That's why I'm offering a bag of moon sapphires to the scientists that can solve global warming once and for all. Cut to the wizard. Sapphires? With those, I could open the gates of Ganesh. Just some wizard jokes.
I'm not seeing any indication that. Oh yeah, no. Wait. No, Al Gore did his voice.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah,
I was reading that he didn't do the table reads, and I'm like, yeah, why would he? He's Al Gore. Professor, you're a professor.
You're a professor.
You must have some ideas, Professor. Absolutely not. I won't speak. I got nothing to hide. Our next speaker is Professor. I demand the floor. Yes, it's your turn to speak. Well, nuts to me. I'm taking the stage.
Then he points a gun at his head. And he says, I feel so guilty. And Fry goes, no, don't do it. Don't do what? Use this memory ray so I can remember what happened back then? Shoots himself with a ray. It was October the 17th at 1:54 p.m. and 14 birds were flying past the window.
It's kind of a used up joke, but I like the C-3PO. Oh dear, might I favor master with a tender kiss on the forehead? Oh dear, I failed again. Yeah. Crushes him while he goes, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear. Gore says, peace out, y'all, as he blasts off. Yep. That's that classic thing we say where if you get a very respectable guest, a great joke is just to make them say something broy and dumb.
Yeah.
So good. Dan, the one I always wish we got was we were in talks with Weezer to do a sketch with us. They ended up doing it with Funny or Die instead. But Daniel scripted for Rivers Cuomo to say, I'm Rivers Cuomo turkey, and then disappear in a puff of smoke. And I'm like, yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah. You already mentioned, I suppose, the environment can take one more for the team, but that's a good one. Fry saying, wait, we can hide you. We'll pile fruit on you and claim you're a bull.
Zoidberg, strange. Why would Nixon, an awkward, uncomfortable man, throw a party? One of the most social events that there is. It's a trap is why. Nixon's going to turn off all the robots. Leela, yeah, we all already figured that out.
That's a good one. And then Bender, Fry, as you know, there are a lot of things I'm willing to kill for. Jewels, vengeance, Father O'Malley's weed whacker. But at long last, I found something I'm willing to die for. This mindless turtle.
Mindless.
Insulting the turtle in the line.
Bender, this world isn't good enough for you. Not even close.
We talked about the robot party is great. The cannon firing the guy and then getting up, them spraying down the robots, they all spark. Yeah. This Bender's continued brawl with that guy while people are talking.
I remember the scream that's so funny to me. It's the smoking robot who goes, where he goes, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. Oh, God, you mean Nixon's not bringing the smokes? Because he said he was stepping out for smokes.
I'm going out for some smokes. Really good smokes. 2 hours.
For 2 hours. And I also like Roberto is stabbing someone. And then when Fry goes, shut up, everyone, he slowly stops stabbing him and pays attention.
And then I think the turtle, poor guy, maybe you'd feel better if I had a drink, and then pumps the keg. Crummy keg can't even, hey, you're a robot, keg, don't stop.
Yeah. We all need to be shut off to save the turtles. To hell with the turtles. No one insults the turtles. Then he has a knife fight with the preacher bot.
Then when it's not working, Slayla, some lazy or polite robot is holding it in.
1 billion robot lives are about to be extinguished. The Jedi are going to feel this one.
I like Bender's line, at least we'll die on our backs, helpless.
Helpless. And my last one, Professor, for saving the Earth and foiling me, I proudly and angrily present you with Earth's highest honor, the polluting medal of pollution. Thank you. I deserve this. Both great lines. Yeah. And the concept of a medal that has smog coming out of it.
Yes. A lot of banger lines.
Pretty good. Pretty good. So we've done our due diligence. We get to make our final call, which barely matters because it's really about the journey. But let's decide who did it better in a segment called Maximum Warp ellipsis Energize.
Warp 9. Knock it up a notch. Maximum warp. Damn. Make it so.
Engage. No, don't engage. Energize.
It's Iborg.
Yeah, it's Iborg. How could it not?
Yeah, I mean, the Futurama
I'm sorry, I hesitated.
The Futurama has some banger lines, but
that will happen again. Yeah, Futurama can always do that.
Exactly. They'll always do that. And Iborg is not only is Iborg really good, but as we talked about, this Futurama episode is really,
the structure works.
Yeah. And the Futurama is really confusing.
It opened up the main villain of the series in a way that is infinitely interesting and unpackable.
Yeah.
Crimes of the Hot is not like a seminal Futurama lore episode.
Again, they did the same premise better before.
Right. So big ball of trash. Yeah. Yep. Agreed. All right. That takes us right into our fan Q&A segment, which also is attended by sound effects.
Open hailing frequencies.
Frequencies open, sir.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
This is the one where we I think it was pretty, not Q from Star Trek, but the other, the Westian one. Right. Only 5 people ask questions this time, so let's do them all.
Right.
And there will come a day where there's no questions.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be on us. I think it'll just be Twitter. No. We'll move to Blue Sky or we'll ask on Patreon. Those people, those nerds love us.
They're in. Doc Garby, one of our faves at JD Burrows, says, do you think sci-fi is a thing in the Star Trek universe or has it disappeared as a genre?
Okay, so I'm trying to remember if there is evidence. of sci-fi.
Yes, it must exist.
They like old
because
sci-fi, right?
Lieutenant Tom Paris is obsessed with doing Flash Gordon shit on the holodeck.
Oh my God, I hate Tom Paris. I forgot that he loves that
all
shit.
of his shit sucks and ruins the lore of the series.
The thing about
he watches
Voyager.
he watches a CRT TV. Like he watches Looney Tunes on TV. And you're like, okay, well that opens up why isn't everyone watching TV?
Yeah.
Like I just barely accepted that there's no TV, and this one guy does watch TV.
Right.
I hate it.
They would have been amazing if they did an episode like The Game, but it's TV.
But people are like, whoa, word, TV's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
I
Do you know the show Ally McBeal? This shit is good. Yeah.
I got to the good Voyager, and it is good, but here's what I'll say, and it's kind of insulting to Voyager, is that a lot of details of Voyager feels like stuff that was on the writer's room floor of the previous ones. Which
Canon-wise, yes.
Yeah, where they like Deep Space Nine, they're like, we got a new captain. What should we do? Make him not like Picard. That's great. Should they be bald? Yeah, they're both bald. Of course they're bald. Oh no, he's not bald at first, and then they let him be bald. But
he asked to be bald, and they made it. They said people would be too intimidated by a black man with a.
Well, also he had just played a character that was bald with a goatee. If you watch and they're like, what should we give him? Picard had horses, and they're like, baseball. Let's make him annoying about baseball the way Picard was annoying about horses. So let's give him things, like what's the holodeck thing? Julian will be a secret agent. It's like Sherlock Holmes, but he's British, so it makes sense. Then the
fact that Janeway's is that she's a Victorian governess. It's like that's so out of character for her.
Yeah, and it's like, what a weird, because it really feels like they're like, we got to give him a holodeck. We got to give him a thing. What should it be? And they just threw some of the worst ideas at them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you can tell they know because halfway through, even though, for example, right, like Data and Sherlock Holmes, that stays true the whole time because they knew it was a good choice. They lose confidence in the governess thing, and instead her thing becomes now she hangs out with Leonardo da Vinci, and you're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They were desperately trying. They knew they had to do the thing.
Something. What's her thing?
And then they're like, let's do Flash Gordon. It's like, yeah, really?
Yeah, I guess. Chaotica.
Yeah.
Anyway, James McLaughlin asks, when characters are stuck in a time loop, TNG's cause and effect, for example, is time resetting to when the characters started to get deja vu, or does it completely reset and they live their entire lives up to the point where they get deja vu? Meaning like the film doesn't show us, but like when they cut to cause and effect, I see what you're fishing for, James, but I got to say my answer is no.
Wait,
because that would mean what? Everyone experiences their own birth. Those all happen at staggered times.
Wait, I don't quite remember that or what you're saying. The time loop starts in cause and effect when the time
with them playing
stops.
poker,
and
going, wait, I recognize this. So James is saying, what if for our convenience, just like we do in film, they're cutting out boring stuff, but in reality, Crusher actually experienced her whole life from birth to this poker game and then went, wait, I have deja vu. I think it doesn't hold up because she would experience deja vu before that point.
Yeah, I also think the episode specifically says this is when we get caught in this, or like the anomaly throws us back in time a set amount. Like I'm pretty sure that's the rules of it. I think the cooler question,
scan the chronotons and they know how many chronotons leaked out or whatever.
The crazier question to me is that, do they keep making new timelines, or like how does the world experience that time loop? Right? Like, because there's a million timelines where this Enterprise exploded then. And it's like, did those live out differently? Did they, by doing that, erase the existence of people? Because they probably did, right? There's a version where they exploded and they wouldn't have killed this person who gave birth to this person who, like, and those timelines, I assume, never exist. Like, they probably just looped it until it's like Groundhog Day, right? Where it's like, for everybody else, it was just this one day
they're
where
in
Bill
a little
Murray,
roller coaster loop and then they get out of it.
Right. And for everybody else, it was this day where Bill Murray was suddenly just godlike. and
a great guy with a big heart. Yeah. So I like to think that a Groundhog's Day, the reality is he just had a stroke that shut down that part of his brain and made him nice, like some people do.
Sure.
Anyway, bad question, James. Just kidding. Jonathan Burgers says, with all the great stuff you produce every week, I'm actually wondering how many hours do you work each week, including like watching movies to discuss or the research for some more news. Oh, including Papa Bear stuff?
Okay.
I'm guessing it's more than people would think. So you mean on all my work? How often? Dude, I work like 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, at least.
Wait, how much?
I'd say like I work minimum a 60-hour work week.
Yeah.
And I just mean actually, I'm not even counting watching movies. You know what? In that.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
count watching movies and playing video games, I probably work an 80-hour work week every week.
Yeah, it's similar. I have actually been able to kind of create a not 9 to 5, but like a 9 to 7 work like day. It's hard. It's really hard because it changes, right? So like every podcast takes an average of 3 hours. That's assuming the podcast is about an hour to 90 minutes, assuming that I watched one movie or one piece of content for that podcast, and had to stop and take notes. So like average 3 hours. So take the amount of podcasts, and then the amount of podcasts I record per week is everything between 4 and 8, depending on the week.
But then when you're talking about writing something densely packed with real information that you don't want to fuck up, like a 14-page some more news script,
well, yeah,
that's a
the next
months-long endeavor.
Well, that's what's interesting. So that's 32 hours for a podcast week, assuming I do the max. But then, some more news to give people perspective on that. Like we give people a month to write the episodes. I have a week per edit. Sometimes I write them from scratch in that week. So it's a lot
But
of.
I'm sure you've gotten faster if you've gone. Like mine is taking longer than
it's
that.
a lot.
Sure.
It's a lot of bursts of long hours. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you experienced this, which is like. Yeah. They do become these really long hour weeks, but a lot of those hours are condensed into a couple of days, and then I'll have a day off. So like I've managed to find time in my life, but it is, it's
I
hard.
force myself to take Sunday off, but I work 10 to 12 hours every single day.
Exactly. Like I'm going to go on break soon, and that means I have to do double the work.
I'm not saying that like I work at the factory punching holes in sheet metal 12 hours a day. Woe is me. I want to work that much because the things I work on, I enjoy. Yeah. So like, I might work 80 hours this week. 25 of those hours is writing my novel. I want to do that.
Yeah. I'm
mean?
not even counting, like the screenplay stuff. It's hard because I'm not saying that, what we would do is like the hardest job ever. It's more about like,
but it's very time consuming. That's true.
And as you get older and you work, we've been doing quote unquote freelance for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you learn after a certain point how to pace yourself, which like my biggest concern is new writers. Because once you realize like, oh, if I do a 14-hour day, I can knock this out. And then you're like, well, if I do that 5 times every day,
I'll be hanging out with Patton Oswalt on a yacht in no time.
And it's like, no, you'll have a nervous breakdown is what will happen.
That's right. That's the one.
Yep.
That's the more likely thing. All right. Rob Cunningham, what is best in life?
Pornography.
I will say being present,
Baldur's
being
Gate.
Fully aware and like present with no thoughts in your mind.
Baldur's Gate. No.
Well, pornography is around you.
I have it.
Mm-hmm.
Twizzlers pull and peel candy.
Yep. You nailed it. Right on the nose. Final question and we're out. Ryan Thompson says, if you could import any fictional game or sport into real life, which would you most like to watch and then play?
Oh, shit.
Watch is clearly Blurnsball to me. Blurnsball seems fucking awesome.
Well, anything, I would say the
Blitzball? Blitzball looks cool to me too.
The serious
FF10.
The serious version is always fucking like Quidditch. That's like Blurnsball,
Quidditch
right?
sucks
No, I'm
ass.
not saying I want Quidditch. I'm saying that Quidditch is Blurnsball, right? When you watch it, you're like, wait, this is dumb, and it makes no sense,
right?
Because
but Blurnsball at least has like robot umpires and giant, hamsters and stuff.
One that I would think people would answer, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that actually kind of sucks, is pod racing. Because like you don't really get to watch that live. It's so big that it's mostly on cameras, right? You're in an audience, but like pod racing is cool.
I always wonder what Parisi Squares is because they mention it all the time, but we never see what it is. So I can't say that, but I think I'd say Velocity, which if you watch Guinan and Worf do this, or I think Janeway and Seven also do it. It's just standing on a circular platform in the holodeck shooting targets with your phaser.
Oh, yeah.
Like I would do that shit. I'd go to the holodeck and do
VR.
police trainer or whatever. Yeah, I just do VR shit.
I was going to say, does the holodeck count? I don't think you can just say the
By the way,
holodeck.
oh, you'll appreciate this. That's true. But they treat Velocity like it's a specific game.
Yeah.
Then maybe Calto. I don't know if I could learn like what it actually is. Maybe that one Bashir, because I love being present. I would do that game that Jadzia does with Bashir in an early DS9 where you just clear your mind. And the more you clear your mind, the more this glowing sphere solidifies. And the goal is to get the sphere to be solid.
Fuck.
That would be cool. It's like biofeedback game.
Fuck. What is it called? I should know because I just watched the episode. I would move along home, Michael.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Dabo or not Dabo.
Dabo.
Not Dabo.
By the way,
the
Dabo
one where
does
they
look really fun. I would play Dabo.
I would play the
gambling.
the one where they acquire and retreat and withdraw.
Right,
that
shit
looks fucking
but
awesome. I forget what it's called.
I do like that stupid. The problem with that stupid game that the
Dabo!
idiot that the edgelord aliens brought is simply that people didn't know it was a game, right? Like there's such. If I were.
That's why that episode
Cisco,
actually has no drama. When they go, it's a game. It's all holographic. They go, oh, okay, cool.
Right. To which Cisco should have put him in a headlock immediately.
Been like, you fucking dick.
Yeah. But as a game, that is pretty chill. Like a LARPing board game. Where,
really? Doing fucking hopscotch while you say Alamarine?
Well, no, sorry.
It looks boring.
I'll correct this. The basic concept of the game, kind of like the idea of like you'd get.
It's like a board game you live. It's Jumanji.
Yeah. You could mod it to actually be interesting. You know,
you
where
totally
it's like
could.
everybody has like it's escape rooms. It's a series of escape rooms.
That's right.
That is a board game. That's a board game. So you have 2 layers. That seems chill. But I think ultimately, honestly, Dabo, because everybody seems to be having so much fucking fun playing Dabo. It's also such a funny word.
Super good in-game game in this game Sea of Stars that I'm playing now with wheels. I'd play wheels.
All
right. Dang, there was one I really wanted to tell you specifically.
It's hard. There's so many.
Oh, no, because you're my LSD friend. I just wanted to tell you, talking about shooting, that I'm doing an all on acid playthrough of Resident Evil 4 VR, and it's pretty good.
Oh, God, that sounds awful.
If you haven't done a lot of VR, it's advanced.
I did.
Shit,
I did.
I'm speed running it. I'm saying that's the point. Is I love Resident Evil 4, and on VR, it's like an unparalleled experience.
Yeah. Oh no,
I've done it like
remember
3-4 times now, so I'm just doing it again.
I played it, and it was like I did mushrooms. The Horizon Call of the Mountain thing.
Ooh,
that
I
was
haven't played that.
Fucking blast. Yeah.
Speaking of having a fucking blast, where can people find next episode and previous episode?
So
of
the
this
next
pod?
episode, which is Jurassic Bark, by the way.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't know. Brace yourself.
Oh shit! And that fucking banger will be over on the Gamefully Unemployed Patreon, patreon.com/Gamefully Unemployed, GAMEFULLY unemployed. Check that out if you want to get the other half of this podcast plus other podcasts. Don't know why I'm talking this way, so I will stop.
Great. And no, because you're behind the paywall.
No.
So you're already patronizing us if you're even listening to this. I'm not Abe, the schedule master, so I can't preview what's coming up next like we like to do. So I'll just say thank you politely and back out of the room.
Fucking Abe.